To the west from Oban, they can't actually see Mull, so it may be visibilities of 10 kilometres or greater as you transit west of Oban. However, I think it is probably worse visibility than at Oban itself. He also commented that there is gusts of 25 knots, so it may be quite bumpy.
Roger all of that wet matter information. I'm assuming if necessary I would be able to land at Oban. 20 Sierra, I'm sorry, I'm too high again, I've got to try again. I might try runway 07.
Hi there, and welcome to everyone, especially if you're a subscriber. Thanks very much. This is a short video of a flight that was my second flight of the day on a trip from Dunkeswell to Glenforsa, where I stopped to refuel at Kirkbride. This video picks it up just after I refueled at Kirkbride, where I took off in a very strong crosswind. I don't mention the video, but you'll notice that I actually chose to take it as a very, very wide runway 28 at Kirkbride, and it was a good 15-20 knot crosswind. So I chose to actually take a diagonal approach across that runway just to reduce the crosswind component by about, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 degrees. You'll see that I was off the ground way before I even got to the centre line. I was happy with that decision, but some people think it's controversial. It was a challenging flight, this one, because it was the second long flight of the day. I'd already just flown from Dunkeswell to Kirkbride, which was already the longest flight I've done solo in the UK, away from home, landing away. And then I'd been through some controlled airspace and over some very bumpy ground. There's already a video up for that first leg of the flight, which I'll link to here, or here, I never remember which one it is. I was running out of energy, running out of juice, and the visibility on the second flight was really quite challenging in places. You can see it in the footage. The two things to note were that Scottish information were outstandingly helpful, proactively helpful. They were volunteering stuff I hadn't asked for to help make my journey easier, and it really made a big difference. The second thing to note was that I had to really pick my way across the terrain there for the second leg of the flight, because it was much less visibility than I would have liked for a VFR flight. Finally arriving at Glenforsa, I had to make 2 go-arounds because my first 2 approaches were terrible. The Scottish information giving me the weather feedback, they were reporting 25 knot winds in a crosswind direction, but the runway at Glenforsa was protected from that wind by the hill, so there was actually very little wind, if any, in the centre of the runway where their windsock was. But both approaches to both runways at Glenforsa had really, really severe rotors and downdrafts. And you'll see what I had to do. I had to throw away the first 2 approaches and then actually change my direction, come in from the opposite direction, which was a really counterintuitive thing to do on a day when there are very strong winds. Just decide to change runway direction. But actually, you'll see what happened in the end. So it was a big day of flying. And if you're interested in the full length flight, I've also uploaded a version which is the full length almost in real time of my flight from Kirkbride to Glenforsa, which has all of the ATC and audio and radio traffic in there and speeds up the track of the flight where necessary. But you can just see the entire flight because it was a breathtakingly beautiful flight despite the poor visibility. And at the end of the video, I give quite a long debrief about the flight. If you're interested in the whole flight, maybe skip the short one and go straight to the long version. But otherwise, enjoy the short version and give me feedback in the comments. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. Right, fuel paid. Fueled it up myself, so it's absolutely brimming. So I've got plenty of fuel. It's only a 1 hour flight from here, maybe less. But the cloud base is not high, but it's not too low. So I might have to be sort of scud running along the water at the sound of Mull to get there. Let's see, it should be fun.
Okay, good start. So let's put 320 on the heading bug. November 20, taxiing to backtrack runway 28 for departure. In my last video, which was taking off from Dunkeswell to go to Sussex, I did a terrible takeoff. I tried to rotate before I had enough airspeed because I felt a crosswind. I felt it scrubbing, so I tried to get it off the ground and I should have let it on there longer. So this is a proper crosswind we've got here. 15-20 knot crosswind. 45 degrees off the runway. I will try and do a better job this time. I have 10 degrees of flaps, 1800 RPM, mag check, alternate check, suction, temperature and pressure is good, cycle the prop just once because it's already warm, and idle check. Okay, all good. November 20 Sierra lining up runway 28 for departure. Right, cross controls into the wind, 10 degrees flaps, airspace alive, and oh, not great, but a scrub. Flaps away, gear up, already is, and climb power and prop.
Kirkbride traffic, Golf Charlie, Golf Yankee Bravo, entering backtracking, runway 28 for 23, 1 hour in the circuit.
November 20 Sierra departing to the northwest, thanks very much, bye bye.
No worries, you have a good trip and enjoy your time at Mum.
Will do, thank you. Don't like the look of that weather. Hopefully just a few showers, go around them. But if I have to, I will come back and land at Kirkbride.
November 1320 Sierra, Scottish.
November 1320 Sierra.
November 1320 Sierra, just for information, I've just spoke to Oban and I have their latest METAR. Do you wish me to relay that to you?
A-firm, yes please.
November 1320 Sierra, roger, the Oban 1520 METAR, surface wind 130 degrees at 12 knots. Visibility is 10 kilometres or greater, scattered 2,400, broken 4,400, temperature plus 13, dew point plus 8, QNH 987 hectopascals. They have reported that visibility to the south is good, to the west from Oban they can't actually see Mull, so it may be visibility of 10 kilometres or greater as you transit west of Oban. However, I think it is probably worse visibility than at Oban itself. He also commented that there is gusts of 25 knots, so it may be quite bumpy.
Roger all of that wet matter information. I'm assuming if necessary I would be able to land at Oban.
Well, 1220, that should be okay. Let me just phone them and double check for you.
Roger that, 200. I did call Glenforsa just before I departed and they had 10k visibility at that point as well, so there might be something in between. But as long as I know I can land at Oban if I need to, that would be great.
1220, Roger, just on the phone to them now. Stand by one.
November 20, it's runway 12 in use. We have fast jets in operation today, so if you could remain north of the 12 climb out at all times and advise me if you need to go any further south than Cumnock or Mauchline.
Roger that, 20, understood. No danger of getting above 3,000 feet with that cloud base. I'm hand flying instead of using autopilot because it's incredibly bouncy. And it makes me keep full situational awareness over exactly where you are, what's happening. I'm not bothered by turbulence normally, but there's something about a very turbulent flight when you're in uncharted territory. You're not familiar with the surroundings. Makes it a bit more uncomfortable. Not too uncomfortable, but just less comfortable than normal. But once I get out of this dark cloud, I think things should get a bit better. We've got a belting old 30-knot tailwind. Well, it's off to our left actually. But it's good to know I've got the option of going back to land at Oban if I need to. And worst case, if Oban's not available, I can go back and land at Prestwick. If I really have to. So we've got this very, very strong 32 knot wind coming from the southeast now. But I think the runway at Glenforsa is sheltered, which means there might be some rotors, but they've been saying that their windsock is showing no wind. That would be nice. It would be nice not to have a 30-knot crosswind to land on. That's for sure. So, going direct to Glenforsa from here takes us over land, but it takes us between two quite high mountains. And with the cloud base, there's no way I'm doing that. So we are going to go round the sound. Stay over the water, follow the coast. Ruggedly beautiful coastline up here.
Terrain 5.5 miles ahead.
Suspect we might get a few bumps once we're on the lee side of these hills with that wind coming over them. We'll see. I won't get too close. Brakes off, undercarriage down and fixed, mixture rich, fuel on both. Prop full forward, autopilot off. Landing light on. 10 degrees flaps. 20 Sierra, right base, runway 26. No, 26, I'm too high, I'm going to go around it again. Sierra, I'm sorry, I'm too high again, I've got to try again. I might try runway 07.
Yeah, about a 500-foot circuit's good.
And we're down.
Good job.
Thank you. I think sporting was the word you used.
Character building, we call it.
Definitely, I can attest to that.
Well, that was an eventful landing. 2 go-arounds. And pretty scary landing on the third one. Character building, he called it. On the radio, I think we got that on audio. So now I'm just going to get the plane tied down, get the covers on it, and begin my several days of R&R. What a beautiful spot. Look at it. When the weather gets up, I can't wait. Right, covers on, tie downs on. Tied down, chalked, covered. In a pretty amazing setting. You know, this has been actually a bit of a dream for me, finally getting to go somewhere in my own plane. Somewhere beautiful. Not having to worry about getting it back because other people want it, that kind of stuff. That's why with shared airplanes it's harder to do trips like this. This was a spontaneous trip. And he decided to do it. Very last minute, like literally yesterday. And here is my home for the next few days. The Glenforsa Hotel. I reckon he's done this before. That's a challenging approach. Look at him side-slipping that. Nicely done. Bit of a skid like I had. That's a Cessna 210. So, just arrived at Glenforsa, and I'm going to have a debrief with a beer. It's a very last minute decision. I've always wanted to come to Glenforsa. It was a really last minute decision. It's Sunday today, and I decided on Friday afternoon that I'd be coming up here. I'm going to be here for a few days. But I just want to talk about those 2 flights, because the first flight from Dunkeswell to Kirkbride, I didn't have camera set up. I recorded the audio and the iPad, and it was pretty uneventful except for the last part of the flight between Blackpool and Kirkbride, because that was some high ground up there, much higher than I realised. I mean, I had looked at it on the charts. I don't know why, I just hadn't sort of put two and two together about cloud-based mountaintops, and there's some footage, but I had to sort of take a detour to the east. The valleys looked socked in with low cloud, and it was an interesting moment because I thought to myself, don't just keep going because I hope it's okay. Don't take that chance. Pick a route where you know it's okay and where you've always got an out. So I did that, and it was fine, but it was incredibly turbulent. And I'm normally fine with turbulence, but when there's a bit of other pressure on you, like low cloud, unfamiliar territory, you throw in a bit of heavy, severe turbulence, and it's quite stressful. So I was glad to be on the ground at Kirkbride, where even though they offered me runway 28, the wind was 230 at 20 knots, so I decided not to bother with the crosswind. Came in on runway 23. Oh yeah, Sky Demon told me that the avgas at Kirkbride was £1.45 a litre. £1.65, and I was pretty low, so it was an expensive trip to fill up, but I absolutely topped off my tanks because I've come up here now and I want to have enough fuel that if the weather breaks long enough and wide enough, then I want to be able to take the plane and go and explore the Highlands. I want to fly up the Great Glen, maybe go up to Inverness. There's a couple of airfields up there which I'd love to check out. So if the weather cooperates one day, I just want to make sure I had enough fuel to do that. So I should have 5 hours of fuel on board now, 4 hours with reserves, which gives me 2 hours of fuel to go exploring here, and leaves me with 3 hours, including reserves, to do the 1 hour flight back to Kirkbride. So I've got plenty of fuel for a really good explore around Scotland if I want to. The second leg of my flight from Kirkbride up to Glenforsa was much more interesting. First time I've ever flown in Scottish airspace. And while it was fresh in my mind, I wanted to just make a mental note, and get on video a few of the things that happened. So I took off from Kirkbride, that's just south of the Scottish FIR boundary. Took off from Kirkbride, strong crosswind, took off on runway 28. Not a pretty takeoff, but it was okay. I started talking to Scottish information, but immediately, I think you can see from the footage, the visibility did not look good enough, and I was looking at rising terrain and deteriorating visibility. And my initial instinct was to just turn back and go, don't push it, you don't know your way around here, it's unfamiliar. If weather closes in, you're going to be stuck above high ground. Just don't do it. But then I remembered some training that I got when I was in America, flying in Maine in bad weather. And it actually gave me the confidence to keep going and make sure I had an out. So rather than just blind worry, I thought, no, it's okay. I'm over low ground, I can see it, I can turn around at any point. And I was just picking one short leg at a time. And by doing that, I planned to go around Prestwick airspace. But in the end, I needed to go through it to avoid some poor visibility. You can hear all that on the ATC recording. They were helpful, but they said stay to the northeast of the airfield. And then I got up to the Western Isles, and the visibility wasn't great, but it was still beautiful. And I was, I never got above 2,000 feet much. And I was just taking one step at a time, one leg at a time. I could have gone back to Prestwick, I could have diverted to Oban. I could see Oban had good visibility. And Glenforsa here was kind of a bit like, I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty murky. There's a lot of that sort of murk around, but that's still 5 miles visibility. And I decided that as long as I had at least 5 miles visibility and I could turn around, I was okay to keep going. So it was definitely on the boundaries of my comfort zone. It wasn't outside my comfort zone, but on the boundaries of my comfort zone. And when it comes to this whole go or no-go question, and what are your personal minimums, what are your personal limits, I think it's very, very easy to give in when actually you can get through. And if you just take it a step at a time and always have a back out option, an exit option, then you have a better chance of actually picking your way through. And that's what I did. I picked my way through. I always had visibility. I could always see at least 5 miles. The cloud was low, but not uncomfortably low. But then, coming in here to Glenforsa, so the plane is, so the runway just runs east-west. It's 0726. 072. It's not right, is it? 0726. Should it be 0725? Anyway, it's east-west roughly. But there are 30-knot winds coming over the mountain of the hills, which is a direct crosswind. The wind was coming from the south. And on the approach to 25 or 26, whichever one it is, I was being thrown around all over the place. Serious rotors coming on the lee side of the hills and the wind coming down it. I don't know if you can tell on the footage from, there's a GoPro under the wing and a GoPro inside, being really tossed around, and it resulted in 2 go-arounds and a decision to change runway and just come in on 07 instead. And at the point I'm recording this, I haven't seen that footage. But from memory, there was a curved approach over high ground onto runway 07. Gusty, wind shear, and a slippery runway with a sideways slope on it, sloping down towards the water. And I think, as you can hear on the recording, the owner of here, Brendan, as he said over the radio when I said I was down, he said, "Yep, character building." And it was. But I'm here now, and what's amazing is, in all the years I was sharing aircraft with other people, I could never have done this trip at short notice like I have today, because it's always booked up at short notice, and if you're going away for a few days, people get tetchy about it, in my experience. So this is an amazing thing to do. So it's the furthest trip I've done from home in this plane so far. I haven't worked out how many miles it is, but it's hundreds of miles. I had a belting 30-knot tailwind most of the way, so I got here much faster than I would have done, which is very nice, especially across the water. But it was another flight where my comfort zone boundaries were extended. Bit nerve-wracking, but feels amazing afterwards. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and the flight. By all means, give me feedback in the comments. But until the next time, cheers and safe flying. Oh, nothing like a pint after a challenging flight. Bye, guys. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. Much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed it. The next flight after this one, so I had a couple of days at Glenforsa, and then I decided to fly from Glenforsa up the Great Glen to Newhall Mains, and that's a fantastic flight, probably the best flight of the entire Scotland trip. So I will be uploading that one soon, as soon as it's ready, after this video. So check it out. I'll link to it as soon as it's ready. But do give me a feedback on that video, and I'd love to know your thoughts about the conditions and how I handle it, because it's always good to learn from. Thanks a lot, safe flying, see you on the next one, bye bye.